My name's Echo Freer, and this is the fourth and final excerpt from my latest book, Toxic Treacle, which will be published on October the 19th, 2011. A monkey and his friend Tragic are travelling through the town after curfew, having been playing illegal football, and they're trying to escape another brotherhood. They've just reached the male zones at the south side of town, and Monkey really can't wait until he graduates into them. In a well-practiced manoeuvre, Tragic clasped his hands together, and Monkey quickly stepped onto it to be pushed upwards, trying to catch a glimpse of what lay behind the security fence. But it had been designed specifically to avoid all such attempts at snooping. Even the bridge had had its parapets dismantled so that prying eyes could not infiltrate the male zones. "Oh man," Monkey teased, "it is just so unjust that you're going to see it before—" He stopped short. They'd both heard it. The breaking of glass, followed by the muted footsteps of a group trying to move quietly. Security usually travelled in stealths for safety, so the chances were it was a brotherhood. "Quick," Monkey whispered urgently, jumping down to the ground and grabbing Tragic's sleeve. He dragged his friend down the slippery bank of the river and pushed him under the vaulted stonework of the upper bridge. They backed away from the open air until they were several metres in from the edge, balancing on a narrow ledge of brickwork that was barely more than a foot's width wide. It ran along the underside of the bridge about 30 centimetres above the fast-flowing water and was slippery with mud from the recent spring floods. Monkey pulled his hood down as low as he could over his face and pushed his checkered scarf down inside his jacket out of sight. He didn't want anything light-coloured to give away their presence. They could hear voices on the towpath, probably about a dozen of them. "Where'd they go?" a voice echoed from the riverbank. "Dunno," replied another. "Reckon they're villagers?" "Nah, mooners or elders, judging by the flag," said the first voice. Tragic poked Monkey as though reprimanding him for allowing his scarf to be seen. Eldridge Way Brotherhood also wore checkers, in green rather than blue, but still easy to mistake in the dark. Monkey was annoyed with himself. He was hanging onto the metal struts under the bridge and was trying to steady his breathing as he listened to the dialogue above. "They've got to come back this way, lest they're going to swim home. So if we stay here, we'll cut 'em off," he heard another voice remark. "Cut 'em off, then cut 'em up." There was a sound of laughter, and Tragic shot Monkey a look of terror. Monkey's mouth was dry, and despite the cold, his palms were sweating. Or were they? Carefully he let go of the metal struts and wiped them one at a time down his jacket. He flinched as he pushed his right hand down the fabric and, peering through the dark, saw a deep stain. It was blood, where he'd pressed his palm into his own blade so hard he'd cut himself. The last thing he wanted was to be leaving a trail of blood. Still, no point worrying about that just yet. He had to get himself and Tragic out of there first. He beckoned Tragic to follow him as he slowly began to edge his way along the ledge, away from the towpath side of the bridge, back towards the road they'd just come along. He knew he wasn't leading his friend to safety, but at least they would stand more of a chance of escape if they doubled back on themselves and legged it through the built-up area. If they tried to run out along the towpath into the Hinters, there was nothing but the turbine park and a biofuel depot. Tentatively he pushed one foot forward, then slid the other after it, inching forwards, his fingers clinging to the ironwork above his head, his back pressed against the damp stone. Every few steps he turned his head, checking that Tragic was keeping up. The voices overhead were getting further and further away, and the lights in town, glimmering on the river, grew closer. If they could make it back to town, there was a delivery duct just metres from the lower bridge. They could dodge into it and make their way back towards the plaza, then up through the village. It shouldn't be too bad at this time of night. Villagers weren't much of a threat. The town lights were still on, so Monkey knew it must still be before midnight. Suddenly a piece of stonework gave way under Monkey's foot, and he slithered off the ledge, sending fragments of stone into the river. "Hey!" a cry went up from the hood. "They're there!" Tragic swore. "We've got to get out of here." Monkey's leg was dangling in the water, icy from recently melted snow. His slashed hand was sore, but he clung to the metalwork above his head to save himself from slipping into the swollen river. Just then the football that had been concealed under his jacket slipped out and hit the water with a splash before being carried away downstream. He cursed under his breath. "Over there, get 'em!" someone from the Brotherhood cried out. "Just run for it." Monkey hoisted himself back onto the ledge, and then shuffled as quickly as he could towards the eastern side of the bridge. The footsteps of the Brotherhood running across the road above them reverberated through the fabric of the bridge. They were overtaking them. There was a flash of light, and a gunshot echoed deafeningly round the arched underbelly of the structure as a bullet ricocheted off the pillars that supported it. Monkey and Tragic both ducked instinctively, but it was hard to manoeuvre in such a confined space. Monkey could make out the silhouettes of their pursuers at the eastern side of the bridge, waiting for them. He clenched his teeth in exasperation. They'd been too slow. He looked back from where they'd come, but the outlines of the rest of the hood told him that they'd got them in a pincer movement. Both exits blocked. There was nothing else for it. "Into the water," he whispered. "Quietly as you can. Don't make a splash." "Are you ragging me?" Tragic was shocked. "Just do it. I can't swim in that." "You won't have to," Monkey said, lowering himself off the ledge and gasping as the cold water hit him. "Well, not very far anyway. Look where the footy's gone." He pointed to the white ball bobbing westwards, away from the town and drifting across the river towards the north bank. "Take a deep breath. Keep your head down till I get us out of range. Then all you've got to do is float. The current will do the rest." "No way!" Another shot echoed round the underneath of the bridge, instantly prompting Tragic to slither into the swollen river. "Crap! Hold on to me and don't struggle." With that, Monkey pushed off from the side. "There they are!" shouted one of the hood from the bank. Monkey braced himself for the shot that he was sure was going to follow. So if you want to read what happens to Monkey and Tragic in Toxic Treacle, you can find out after October the 19th, or you can pre-order the book on Amazon. You can also find a link to Amazon on my fan page on Facebook. Thank you for listening.